Good day, everybody. My name is Bill Woodcock,
And I'm Steve Hunt. Greetings.
and you are watching or listening to another edition of But Before We Go. I would like to take a moment to remind you and all out there in viewer and or listener land to please go to the YouTube channel, But Before We Go, all one word, just run together, no spaces, no underscores, no anything. That is BUTBEFOREWEDO for those of you who need it spelled out. And feel free to look at our videos to date. There will be 6 of them for you to enjoy as well as this one, the seventh. And feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel is important because we certainly crave approval, Steve. And that kind of brings us to the topic of today's podcast, doesn't it? Because as we like to do from time to time, and from time to time, I mean, this is the first one, we talk about things and that in the frame of, well, how we used to do it. And so today's topic is how we as Gen Xers seek approval. Now, this may seem like a misnomer, and this may be, Steve, like you are all decked out in black today, because maybe you just don't give a damn about approval. But how did you, Steve Hunt, when you were a young Gen Xer growing up in the wilds of Prince George's County, Maryland, what methods did you use to seek approval, to make people like you? Or did you even care?
Approval it was certainly different than how it is today. There's an old saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. Yeah, we didn't have any of that. It was a permission structure that you were seeking, whether it was from family, whether it was from friends, whether it was from total strangers. Um, you know, Permission with parents specifically felt like a United Nations negotiation. There was there was a continued negotiation. There was going from one parent to the other one. There was all of that. With society and people in general, a lot of it was following the norms. If something out was cool, you ate it or you drank it or you wore it. I mean, there were all of those things that you tried to do to make yourself cool, more than likely cooler than you really were. But that's what you did. If bike X was the new thing and you had bike Y, you went begging to your parents for the next available Christmas, birthday, whatever event it was to get, bike X because all of my friends had bike X. So there was a lot of that. There was also a lot of showing how you were up on things. So, I remember in high school, everybody was, oh God, this show kills me, Bill. Everybody was in the general hospital, specifically the girls. So, what did me and all the guys do? We rushed home and we watched General Hospital. And the
Wait,
latest.
wait a minute. Wait, you watch General Hospital, the soap opera on the ABC television network.
We did, sir.
Did
Especially,
you
and
admit this to each other?
yes, because that was that there was a point in the late 70s, early 80s, and it really blew up when Rick Springfield joined the cast of
Yes.
that lovely program. If you want to have a conversation with anybody in high school, if you didn't know what was going on with GH, and yes, I still remember you never called it General Hospital, you called it GH. If you didn't know what was going on, you might as well have been living on a desert island, or maybe going, at my high school it was Stairwell 6 where all the smokers and stoners hung out. Go hang out with them, because polite society wasn't having you if you did not know about Luke, Laura, the Scorpios, Dr. Noah Drake, the Cassadines, and I could go on. But if you didn't know about those people, forget about it. You had no social existence. So that's really what it was for me. How about you, Bill, in the wilds of Central Maryland?
Wait a minute. Hold on now. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. So I remember the wedding of Luke and Laura being a thing, but
Yep.
I do not remember any male in my high school admitting to watching GH, General Hospital, Gen Haas, or any other nickname. Do you mean to tell me that like your actual peer group, not just females, but males and females, would discuss the happenings of the prior day's episode?
Well, the males just needed to know what was going on. So you didn't really have to watch the whole show, but you had to know enough so that when you were in a crowd and there were females, they started talking, you could say, "Oh yeah, and then this happened." Now you could fudge it again. You
Okay.
could watch the first 20 minutes and just say, enough to know that yeah, you actually watched it, but you had to know something. And there was no recap on Twitter or X or Facebook that you could like kind of get notes for conversation. You had to watch the show.
So it was the teenage porn aspect for guys. I mean, it was watching the girls, and this was, the jiggle TV era. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was the low cut tops, the short skirts, the legs, the butt, the boobs, and the hair, and that would be it. That would be the draw. Guys would tune in for 5 minutes, see that, and then they'd move on.
No, the draw was to know enough to talk to girls at your school because they were all into it. I can't. I mean, there were some characters I think that were attractive, but there was no. If I've listed my 70s early 80s crushes, there was no characters on General Hospital that were on that list. It was really more about knowing enough about the show to talk to the girls at your own school because they were totally into it. They were like long gone into it. So you had to have that was kind of your in. That was kind of your
So
icebreaker.
it
Well,
got you your cred with the girls.
yeah, it was like, hey, by the way, did you watch yesterday's episode of GH? And they would look like, ooh, you watch GH? It's like, well, yes, I do.
Oh, like the old HBO commercial. Do you work for HBO? Why, yes. Yes, I do. All right, so one more thing before we talk about my obviously sheltered and too cloistered existence. When you guys would do this,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I mean, this is how you got your cred. This is how you became popular.
Mm-hmm.
How does this so overlaying my litmus test of if it doesn't apply to a Breakfast Club character, is it really Gen X? Which Breakfast Club character could you see doing this activity? Because otherwise, I may have to just say, y'all were just booming and you were playing Gen X. So, which Breakfast Club character would you have seen do this activity? Or characters, if you want to be bold.
Okay. In an ideal world, outside of the Breakfast Club, if the Breakfast Club were a real high school, this would be a move that the Anthony Michael Hall character would try to start a conversation with the Molly Ringwald character.
You know what? That's exactly where I was thinking. That is literally exactly where I was thinking. But in a way, I could also see the Emilio Estevez character try to play this too.
Yeah, I could say it because he was a jock, but he was a jock with some issues, and he wasn't the you know stereotypical
Yeah, he
cocky
had some
jock. So yeah,
sensitivity to him, right? He had a little sensitivity to him
yeah,
under the exterior.
yeah. He
So,
didn't have
like,
he didn't have as much
but
he
like
didn't
to
have
me,
as much game. Yeah, so he not having as much game as your typical jock might have. Yeah, that would be one that he would work. Yeah.
but now I'm going to throw this knuckle curve at you because I think he would do that to try to start up a conversation with somebody outside of his comfort zone, which in this case would be Ali Sheedy.
you're assuming the Ali Sheedy character would even watch television. I don't know that that is the case. I mean, I know
Well,
she would. I don't know that she's into and popular culture. She was so anti everything. I don't know. Maybe she secretly would watch it and not tell anybody to maintain her I don't know whatever her vibe
her
was.
goth cred.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that would be the case, but I don't know that she would even watch television, much less watch a soap opera.
You might be right there, but anyway, the Molly Ringwald character certainly would. So
Oh, please.
I call this I call this legit. I also call this something I've never heard of. I can't like this is wild. I don't think, and my goodness, my friends who I went to high school with and grew up with, please correct me. Please write in and comment if I'm wrong. I don't think we ever watched General Hospital. Now, that's not to say that. So, first off, thank you for punching a hole in the balloon that we Gen Xers did not seek anyone's approval from anyone because that's trash.
Oh
We
yeah.
may not have cared so much about getting approval, but that we weren't approval seeking people or we aren't approval seeking people. Oh, that's just simply not true. It's human nature to seek approval and to want approval. That being said, would say that, of course, you sought approval by conforming and
Mm-hmm.
by buying certain clothing, and clothing fit into your trope, whoever you were. If you were a preppy, you bought the designer jeans or the knit shirts or
Izod,
the
baby. Izod.
oh my God, Izod was
Had to
all
have the
over the
alligator.
place. The girls had the little sweaters with the initials on them. The Jordache, the Sergio Valente, the
Yeah.
Gloria Vanderbilt jeans, the Calvin Klein jeans. Guys had Levi's, and of course the shoes became the thing, the Air Jordans, the
Oh,
Adidas
don't,
shoes,
don't even
all
start.
of those.
Oh, you got to go. If you're talking shoes, and that could be its own episode, you got to go before Jordans and all of that. You got to go the Dr. J Converse that rolled out in like 77, 78. And I remember for Christmas, I asked my parents, that's all I wanted because they were not cheap because they were the leather ones. And I remember the first day after Christmas break, speaking of approval, I can't remember what else I was wearing, but damn it, I was going to wear those Dr. J Converse just to show everybody I had a pair. Because one, it was Dr. J and he was that dude. The commercial was one of the coolest commercials ever with the whole tune that they did. And the shoe was kind of tight. So yeah, before the Jordans, before the Adidas, before the Magic and Bird cover, there was you went from Chuck Taylor's to this new crazy thing that Converse rolled out, the Dr. J signature shoe. So, oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh
the
yeah,
Chuck Taylors still played too. They were still
oh they
good.
still play. Yeah,
They
yeah,
were
they still
still
play.
good.
But if you want to be hip and cool, you had to start converting to the Dr. J's, which led to everything else afterwards. So the forerunner of all the signature shoes you see today, the first one was the Dr. J. Everybody wants to say it was the Air
Yes.
Jordan. No, it was the Dr. J Converse,
No,
baby.
that is a very good point, and we do need to cover footwear of our era at a later point. If you were a guy, you had status symbol kind of based on like some of the cool shit you had.
Yeah.
If you had like a video game or the electronic football games were
Yes.
were huge, you needed to have one of theirs and one of those and take it out at lunchtime or before or after school and blip around on it. you know, um, Musical tastes were very varied, but I'm trying to think of television. And I guess as I'm thinking of television, I don't remember anything that was as unifying as General Hospital.
Yeah,
I
that was
remember there
nuts.
were people who were into Dallas,
Sure.
people who were into MASH,
Yep.
people who were into, very, oh my God, the Linda Evans, John Forsythe Dynasty, Joan
Dynasty. Yeah.
Collins.
Oh, the
That
nighttime
was a
clips.
big one. So yeah, the soap operas, but the prime time soap operas. I mean, at some point later, we have to talk about like the ABC after school specials with
Oh
most of
God.
which featured Jodie Foster and Lance Kerwin and Lance Kerwin.
Mm.
One of those two became something. Whatever the fuck happened to Lance Kerwin?
But there was another one who became something. If you remember, the boy in the plastic bubble with a young
Oh, that was
man by
John
the name of
Travolta, but that was after
exactly.
John Travolta was already on Welcome Back, Kotter, though,
Was it
wasn't it?
after Cotter? Okay,
I'm
I didn't know
pretty
if it was
sure it
before
was after
Cotter or when
Kotter.
Cotter
We need to
started
go
up.
to our research department for that
There you
and
go.
see what Mr. Pedia, first name Wiki, has to say.
Yeah, maybe that's when he decided he was not Vinny and wanted to be a serious actor. So maybe
Yeah,
that might have
yeah,
been
that
his
is. I
move.
think that was it. So I mean, but that's how we gained approval. Was in general it was conformity to
Yeah.
various things, and yeah, it was stratified based on kind of what clique you were in. If you were in the geek clique, you did these things. If you were in the
Mhm.
stoner clique, you did these things. If you were the jock clique, you did these things. If you were the preppy clique, you did these things. And I'm trying to remember what was really like a unifying thing. Bit hard pressed to come by it from a cultural standpoint, but there certainly was just a large measure of complicity.
And that's true because if you look at today, there seems to be a move towards your cool is defined on how you don't conform to the norm, how outside of the norm you are, how you know whether it's an artist or even an athlete that has a certain persona, it's this person is outside of the norm, so they're interesting. And you're right. Our whole thing was we wanted to fit in. We wanted that approval. We wanted people to think that we were cool or we were at least okay, that we weren't treated like an outcast. So even if you weren't totally in the hip crowd, it was almost I know, at least again in my high school, where you know you were cool if the hip crowd at least knew your name. And I was very lucky in going to my own stories is the jocks in my high school, I played sports with them when I was a kid. And then they had puberty like landed hard on them and like passed me by, but I still knew them from when we played as kids. So my cool is in the fact that the star quarterback of the football team, which was king at my high school, we knew each other. So my cred there came from the fact that he at least knew who I was, and we'd go
So
down the
you
hall. Hey, what's up, Steve? Hey, what's up, man? And so it was like, oh, Steve, you know this guy? I'm like, well, yeah.
so then you hit upon the thing that I want to talk about for like the balance of this podcast, which is how did we see because here's the analog, right? So we do this craziness with online and social media and all this mess. And the point is, I just, pimped 15 minutes ago. I just pimped to the world, to the universe, like us on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
No idea who's going to like us and who's going to subscribe to us, who's
Right.
going to follow the Facebook page. Oh, which is also, but before we go, everybody, for those of you who want to, I don't know, but but probably it's going to be some people who are like us and
Mm-hmm.
many people who are not like us.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what did we do? But that's the point, is to try to appeal to everybody. In today's culture, today's society, people measure their worth on likes. And I'm not sure it was like that with us.
No.
But what did we do? What did you do? It sounds like you've already hit on it. Search for approval from people who are not in our clique. I mean, we've talked about people who are like us, with different than us. I mean, you bring up a very good point, having grown up with kids in like your little immediate neighborhood and following them up through the younger years.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember like just going for like approval of just like randos? I mean, just anybody? Or is there anybody? I mean, I guess we've all had this thing with romantic relationships, but like, trying to get the girl or guy of our dreams to like us.
Hmm.
But like, you know, was there ever like I just want people to like me and so I'm going to do a thing? Or is that a thing that's germane to this time?
Yeah, I think that's more to this time. The thing that I will say is we obviously had to really work hard because we couldn't throw something out on a social media channel and have it picked up by some random person that could be in another country. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get on my Twitter feed, somebody is following you, and it's like somebody from like halfway around the world. It's like I don't even know how this person found me in the first place. They just probably just started clicking on follow, 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 follow. Um, and that's ours was much more interpersonal. So I can't think of as far as my peer group, other kids. It was pretty much person to person. I can't think of seeking approval outside of just your known circles or outside of your circles, but it's still within your ecosystem. So, you have these different groups in a school, but it's still the school. It's still its own ecosystem. I would say outside of that, it would probably be more approval of adults, your parents' friends, maybe you wanted their approval because you didn't want your parents' friends to look at your parents and say, I can't believe they're raising these knuckleheads. And those approvals came through behavior. You did not act around grown-ups at the barbecue the way you acted around your buddies at the basketball court. It was yes ma'am, no ma'am, hey Miss Jane, hey Mr. Joe, and you were very prim and proper and respectful, and go later down to the basketball court and get the four-letter words out of your system. So I would think that's how if you're talking about people outside of your ecosystem, it would be through your behavior. Maybe you wouldn't wear that um, you know Three's Company T-shirt or whatever show might get the parents all riled up. Maybe you if the parents were going to be going through the house and might find their way to your room, you take down that Farrah Fawcett or Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders poster or something that they didn't say, oh my God, I can't believe you have this on your wall. Your parents are letting you have that on your wall. So maybe that was it. That's all I can think of.
So I would say so I had experience in this world because I went from a public high school, which of course was, the people and kids in my neighborhood and community, to a private college. And these were
Oh.
kids from around the country and around the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so what played in Howard County, Maryland, was not going to play with a population of a bunch of kids from mostly from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, some from Maryland, Virginia, Connecticut, and parts unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So, you learn some things when you go to college, especially a private college, right quick. First
Yeah.
off, you never went to high school. You never wear a high school t-shirt, your high school class ring.
Uh-huh.
There's no more wasted investment when you are 17 or 18 years old than your high school class ring. Because you
Yeah.
never wear that damn thing anywhere. You
Nope.
wear it, you wear it from when you get it to when you go to college, and then it goes away. So
Right.
anybody out there contemplating getting a high school ring, maybe for your kids, I'm going to tell you, don't spend the money on
No.
something, put it in an investment, do something, give it to a homeless person because it's going to do as much good as buying
Yes.
a high school ring. Make those memories other ways.
Yes.
Another thing that I learned to do, I was not very adept at it at first, and I like to think now, after much experience and trial and error, I'm much better, is to try to be relatable. And
Hmm.
it's a little bit of a paradigm shift from trying to and working to conform to a group than how to be relatable to people you don't know. I mean, because
Hmm.
There were obviously people who had much different life circumstances than I.
Hmm.
So, I kind of looked at it. I mean, I know now with, the age of, being 35 years older than when I was in high school, when I was a freshman in college. Now that it's a two-way process, you've got to acclimate to other people have to acclimate to you. But when I was 19 years old, it was very much one way.
Hmm.
And I felt like I needed to relate to them. And so that leads to a little bit of imposter syndrome. That leads to a little bit of, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. But my God, I sure as hell did try.
Hmm.
And I guess I learned on the same bases as I tried it in high school. I learned like new types of music. That's where my love, my appreciation for alternative rock came in. Punk
Hmm.
rock came in because that's what most of the kids listen to. Um, you know, um, different types of food. I mean, that's where I would try sushi and Indian food and other types of Asian food for the first time. Yes, even Chinese food, which is goofy. Never had it before college.
Uh-huh.
Um, and another thing, most people in college had cars, and I
Hmm.
had no car. So I
Hmm.
went out freshman first semester, and in the January I of my between my first two semesters, I not just bought a car, but I also got a driver's license. Because I felt that's what I needed to be part of to be somebody.
Hmm.
That's what I did. And I will be honest, I was totally unhappy with all that bullshit for the first 2 years of my college life. It wasn't
Hmm.
until the third year that I felt like I was coming into my own and I was emotionally maturing. That's way too much psychoanalysis, and I can go into way too much more. But that's what I remember. But that's what I remember doing, and to me, it was like almost like trying to be relatable to Randalorians, to
Hmm.
just whoever, because again, these were folks from circumstances I had just never experienced before.
Yeah. It I think I got more into the relatable as an adult because at least for me, high school was definitely a bubble. It really was that ecosystem. Everything outside of high school was related to people you knew at the high school. So it really was its own social bubble. College became different. I went away to school, so I had to learn new things and new people. But they, at the end of the day, weren't radically different than some of the elements I had in high school. So for me, it wasn't until the real world that you had to learn the whole relatable thing. You just kind of, I mean, through my colleges, you just kind of fit in. You just kind of fit in where you can and go from there. And it got smaller because obviously college for me it went from a high school of 2,000 to a university of like 13,000. So obviously there's a bigger universe there. But even there, as you know, if you go away to school, your ecosystem becomes your dorm building or you're part of the campus. Like I was on what was called West Campus. I hardly knew anybody on like East Campus. All my there might be the occasional person I had class with, but all of my social time was West Campus and maybe North. So it was probably the real world where you had to learn the whole relatable thing, and that's a whole other bag and whole other situation. But yeah, through the years that we're talking about, the formative years, yeah, approval came from the things we talked about. So um, it's funny. It's funny looking back, especially now that I have kids in high school. Well, one's out now, but one is still in, and watching what they do and how they interact versus how we did. And even stripping away the whole idea that technology is there that wasn't, just the social interaction, the human interaction, how they talk to each other, relate to each other. It is so radically different. I would not pay to I don't know, whatever it is, transform myself into a high schooler today. I thought my high school years were awkward and weird. These kids, I feel for them, man, because
No, I know we've
it's
only
a
got
tough
a
hustle.
Yeah, we've only got a few minutes left, but I will say this. I mean, I think that all of those old school ways that we're talking about are still applicable to how kids today, seek approval. Plus, there's the whole online thing. Plus, of course, all of those friends playing into their online thing. And sometimes, maybe oftentimes, that's a huge bonus
Hmm.
because you're connected to people 24/7, but at the same time that could be a terrible thing, a terrible weight and a terrible burden. And of course we know of horrific things that happen online in peer groups
Hmm.
because again you deal with that peer group 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, this has been an awesome discussion. We are going to have another awesome discussion next week because we are going to talk about how you watch TV, how we watch TV before cable, before streaming, before any of that jazz, how you used to deal with the rabbit ears, the antenna, being the human remote, and all the rest of it.
Oh
If
yeah.
you are not a Gen X member and you are younger than Gen X, prepare to be bloody horrified. And I
Yeah.
mean horrified.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, I can't believe you did that, or you had to do what? And I can tell you, yes, we did. So, yeah, stay tuned for that, gang. It's going
All
to
of it.
be a riot.
Well, for Steve Hunt, I'm Bill Woodcock. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for watching or listening to another episode of Before We Go. And have a great week, everybody. Take care.